Hey everyone, welcome to Perspectives of Change. Sometimes we forget that our perspective as change agents is just one of many. And Perspectives of Change show is dedicated to exploring how to nudge change forward by understanding and valuing multiple perspectives. I'm your host, Sarika Kharbanda, trying to enable the change DNA in one or more of us, including myself at all time, my mantra being disrupt, unleash, and co-creating the tomorrow with all of you. So with that short introduction, I'd like to welcome our guest today, Jehaan Ghaseeta. Is that correct to pronounce?
Yes, that's right.
Awesome.
Ghaseeta.
Welcome, Jehaan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So I'm Jehaan, agile coach. Currently working with two teams of engineers, very technical people. So I've embarked on the lean change management journey, I would say a year ago, almost. And yeah, it's been exciting.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember when we started that and all the challenges that you're getting from your context. And yeah, with all the other people in the workshop, it was interesting to co-learn with you, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're dialing in from Belgium. Tell us a little more.
Yes.
Because the last we met, you were in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, Jehaan. So before we get on to the topic, tell us something about your journey from Malaysia to Belgium.
Yes, so I'm actually a very new coach, agile coach or Scrum Master. So I started my Scrum Master journey, I would say 2.5 years ago, and I was in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. So it was a transition for me. I was previously an application security analyst. So that was a completely new role that I was getting into. And I actually really enjoyed it. So after 3 years, I wanted a new challenge. And I was thinking, why not relocate to the headquarters where there are some interesting challenges in the office and where I think that I could bring some value to the team. So, and also for my personal journey, I've always wanted to relocate to Europe. So that was also a contributor to my relocation. So yeah, so now it's been 3 months. I'm still very new to Belgium, but yeah, I'm getting used to the environment.
Awesome. So I know the topic today we are talking about is lean coffee and change and your context, but tell us something about Belgian coffee before we get to the lean coffee.
That's interesting because I've not bought coffee outside since I came because I have a coffee machine.
Okay.
So I prefer to make my own coffee. But yeah, I think what is interesting is that in the office you have a coffee corner. So this is where people usually socialize. Yeah, and it's really the place to go if you want to have a quick chat with your colleagues over coffee. And I've been taking a quick water break for me and taking this opportunity to get to know other people in the office.
Awesome. So maybe that's a good segue into the lean coffee topic, because I remember when we connected last year, we've been talking about lean coffees in the context of lean change management, and you've been exploring and you've been experimenting with the number of lean coffees in your context. So before we dive into what experiments might you have tried, how about we try and, get a picture of what does lean coffee mean to you? You gave us something already in practical terms of, informal structure there, but tell us more. What does lean coffee mean to you personally?
I think when I hear lean coffee, it's more informal. I feel like it's a very casual, informal way to get people together and discuss about any topics. So it's also, I think there's an element of safe environment. When we say, let's have a lean coffee chat today, I think people really feel really welcome and they're okay to come in and share what they have on their mind. So really that's the perspective that I get. It's really simple. It's informal and welcoming.
Nice. So I like the fact that you see people can come and share what they have on their mind, which kind of brings my favorite question. I think you've heard that a lot in the workshop, because we always talk about co-creation, right? And Lean Coffee is all about co-creation. So do you want to shed some light on one of your experiments where you, through Lean Coffee, have kind of, co-created that change in your context? Because you and I have been talking a lot offline about that. So share something with us from an experiment point of view.
Yeah, I think where it has been most useful in my context is to bring a group of people that is our tribe, as we call it, to align, more on alignment, I would say. And it's really been really useful to have a large group of people come together and bring out questions and concerns that they have about the change. And for the leaders to understand what's really going on the ground and clarify some assumptions, some concerns, and making sure that everyone is aligned and understand what's going on. So it's really helped to address fears and concerns. And I think after the Lean Coffee, people usually are more aware and they feel less anxiety about the change because some of their questions has been answered. And they get to hear different perspective from the ground and also the perspective of the leaders. So it really helps to really bring alignment amongst everybody.
Oh, I love all the points you shared. So I'm just going to try and summarize it so that, we can consolidate it also for our listeners and viewers. So yes, it helps us bring alignment, especially I think if it's a large number of people, it still works. So we're not saying it just works for small groups of people, but also for larger groups of people. Bringing concerns to the surface, bringing transparency to the leader and from the leader. So it is bi-directional. As I hear it, it's not just one-sided. It helps to clarify and understand what's going on. So the leaders can understand what's going on the ground. Also, because, there is a bi-directional flow of information, and that's through conversations and discussions. It helps the people on the ground also understand the perspective of where the leaders are coming from. So obviously, if, a change is being brought to the context, then it definitely reduces the uncertainty, definitely reduces the anxiety that you said. And so hopefully it brings more, how do you put it, more welcoming attitude to the change than just pushing it back. But it, of course, allows the right questions to come to the surface and get answered from everybody in the context. Yeah.
And I think one useful, I would say, tool from the Lean Coffee is the ability to vote on the topic that you want to, that's more close to your heart. So I think with a big audience, this is really helpful, especially when there are so many questions coming from the group. So they are able to vote, they have 2 votes, and they are able to vote on the topic that they really want to hear. And that also gives them some kind of involvement And yeah, so the topic that has the most votes are usually the one that will be answered first, will be discussed first. And also the discussion doesn't go on for a very long time because it's time boxed. So it gives us the opportunity to understand whether the crowd has had enough information or if they want to continue to discuss the same topic. And this really helps to also give us an understanding of what is the most important topic for the audience and whether it has been addressed enough so that we can move on to the next one.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just making some notes because I think you brought out some really cool points. So what's most important to everybody who's involved in that change? Excuse me, that's one. And secondly, everyone feels involved because, they feel they're being heard, their questions matter. And then based on the priority that each of them puts to the questions, that's really what we together are going to clarify or discuss and, bring out. And even more importantly, like you said, it's time box. So it's not that you can just go into rabbit holes. And if everyone still feels the need to discuss, then you continue to discuss maybe for shorter times. But as long as everyone feels you need more clarity, you continue. But if everyone has all the information, then you kind of stop that. So that's really awesome, which is kind of co-creation, right? Because it is everybody involved in the process. And now you are making sure that people have more alignment, back to your previous point. With more alignment, bringing more clarification, more transparency, and in a way, it also builds trust and bypasses the resistance that people might end up having. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So, go on, please.
Yeah, no, I think it's been one of the most used tools, I would say, in the organization because of how simple it is to use and facilitate. Because to be honest, the facilitator only have to just make sure that things are time boxed and that, people are able to vote and things like that. But really the facilitation is very minimal and it really helps to engage the whole crowd very easily. And like you said as well, it could be a small audience or it could be a bigger audience. Really, I think there's no limit to the number of people that could attend the Lean Coffee. So yeah, I think it's been widely used, I would say, in the organization because it has helped us with so many different initiatives and experiments that we are trying to do, just to validate those experiments and to also get insights from people. So once we try something, we want to understand whether it's well received by the squads, the developers, the engineers, so all groups of people. And these are really, the best way I think that we could achieve that and gain insights from them.
Awesome. Now, you already been talking about so many benefits, so I don't want to ask a specific question because I think there's so many benefits that you can get and that you've been talking about. So my question would be, I don't know whether you've been doing this more online or is this more in person or is this more like a hybrid setup? So I'm curious first about that and what kind of challenges might have you been facing when you started to experiment with lean coffees?
So it's been mostly virtual.
Okay.
Because we work with people from different locations. So we have offices in Malaysia, we have offices in Belgium, sometimes other parts of Europe. So really the best way to do it is virtual. I've not experimented with it in person, but I think that would be interesting to see how it goes as well when people are there physically in the room. But I would say the challenges that I face using this, I think not really challenges, but as a participant, I've also been a participant of the Lean Coffee, and not just facilitating the Lean Coffee, but I think maybe as a participant, if your question do not get enough votes, then, maybe you feel that, okay, you've not received the answers that you were hoping for in that meeting. Yeah, but it's always been very interesting and insightful regardless. So I would say, yeah, maybe that's the only challenge that I see as a participant of the Lean Coffee.
That's interesting because ideally, so from my perspective again, and from the teams that I've been coaching on Lean Coffees, I would probably say, well, it's not about who put the question out there and what question it was. The more important factor, of course, could be whether that question's a priority to everybody together, right, as a team. And if it's not, maybe it is not, or maybe it just gets answered through other questions and we have no idea. A lot of times that does end up happening, right? So I'm curious, how did you navigate that challenge? Because yes, it is a challenge. A lot of people do feel that when you start with it, before you get the hang of the fact that it's not really a big deal, but you got out a very fantastic challenge. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, so like I said, we usually do this with very large groups. So we have a lot of questions coming through. So I think that's why sometimes we're not able to answer, or everybody doesn't have the opportunity to discuss all of the topics. So what we've been doing is either address those questions offline.
Okay.
So since we already have a backlog of questions and they're already prioritized, I think it's easy to then look at it offline and say, okay, these are the next topic that has not been discussed, but which still has a lot of votes. So people still want to know about this topic, but we just did not have time to discuss it. So then we'll just extract those and maybe create an FAQ page, or we'll just have another Lean Coffee session, a part 2, because sometimes it's too much information in one session. So then we split it into 2 different sessions, and then we say, okay, let's have a separate session where we will look at the other questions that has not been answered yet.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay. So my final question to you, Jehaan, would be, if you had to give advice to anybody experimenting with a Lean Coffee for the first time, what would that be?
I would say make sure the topic is clear for everybody before starting, so the audience, and make sure that you have the right audience as well for the Lean Coffee. So that's more on the facilitation part. But also there's always an opportunity to pivot and address those with the audience. So I would say, don't be afraid to try it. It's very easy to use. Just ensure you have the right people there in the room or virtually, and that the topic is understood by everybody.
Awesome for that really fabulous advice. Thank you so much, Jehaan, for joining us today. And thank you all for listening and watching us. Remember to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below. And if you're listening into our podcast, do remember to subscribe to the podcast too. I will see you soon at the very next one with yet another special guest and another special topic. Thank you all, and bye for now. Stay safe, stay healthy.